I'd like to talk a little bit about just this idea of being thankful. We have a holiday of Thanksgiving, and that helps us hopefully get back on track when we're unthankful. It helps us reflect a little bit on the things that we're thankful for. But gratitude and thankfulness really ought to be a part of our life. And when I think about thankfulness and gratitude, I think that it fundamentally is a response. It's a response to something. And ultimately, it's a response to God, because everything we have is from God. So just think about the fact that you exist, that you were born, that you woke up this morning, that you have breath in your lungs. That is all a gift from God. Or think about the air you breathe, or the trees and the different seasons and the beauty in nature. That's ultimately all a creation that was made by God. And you should respond in thankfulness to that, because God didn't have to make you. He had no reason to make you other than that he wanted to. You didn't deserve to be made. And God has granted you existence. God has given us, beauty in nature. He's given us family. He's given us friends. He's given us shelter and possessions. And then he's given us forgiveness. All of us have completely blown it and not followed God. And God has given us forgiveness in his own son. And if you are a believer in Jesus, he's given you salvation. Those should be all things that you should be thankful and grateful for, and grateful every single day. And if you're not grateful for those and not giving thanks for them, or having an attitude of thankfulness every day, you simply do not recognize how much of a gift those are. And the more you recognize the goodness of God, the more you respond in gratitude. And I want to think about Romans chapter 1, where it says the invisible attributes of God, namely his eternal power, his divine nature, have been clearly perceived since the creation of the world and the things that have been made. So, we see some of who God is in his creation. So people are without excuse. For all they knew God, they did not honor him or give thanks to him. But instead, they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. I think the irony here is God has made the entire creation, all of existence. It's a gift from him. And yet, instead of being thankful for that, people turn their back on God and devote their life to something else that's even less than God. And then oftentimes they look at God with bitterness or hatred, or they give their love and their gratitude to something else other than God. And that's just a sin, because all of life is from God. So you should recognize the source of all the goodness and beauty in the whole world. It's God himself. Or I think about Ephesians chapter 5, verses 18 to 20. Don't get drunk with wine, which leads to debauchery, but instead of getting drunk, you be filled up with the Spirit. And this is a result of being filled with the Spirit. Singing songs to one another, and songs from the Spirit. Sing and make music from your hearts to the Lord, and always give thanks to God the Father for everything in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. So, living a life of gratitude is also a sign that you're filled with God's Spirit. It's a sign that you're overflowing with God's Spirit. And finally, I want to leave you with this thought. Why would you choose not to be grateful? Because a life that's ungrateful and unthankful is a miserable, bitter life. But a life that's filled with gratefulness and thankfulness to God is a life that's filled with joy and beauty, in which recognizes that all things come from the one who's the greatest, and that's God. And that's the best thing you could live for. That's the best attitude you could have, is to be thankful and grateful to God. So choose to live in the light where there's joy and there's fulfillment, and don't live in the darkness where there's bitterness and there's death. It just doesn't make any sense. Why would you choose not to be thankful to God?